Chapter 232 was easily one of my favorites of the fight so far, and look, I've seen all the Fraud Kuna memes floating around, and while he does deserve some blame for falling for Gojo's trick this chapter, we do all need to remember that he doesn't even have his 20 fingers yet, so losing to Gojo in this like 1v1 portion of the fight is kinda to be expected. At least it looks like Sukuna's out cold. I mean, it's hard to tell for sure with the way the fight's gone so far, but it would be fitting since it would have ended on a black flash. And I think this is something almost all of us have been waiting to see come back into the story at some point. And to see it at the potential climax of this fight is pretty insane. Yuji showed kind of a natural knack for the black flash, even to the point where it was said Yuji was the man chosen by the black sparks. He's even tied the world record for consecutive black flashes, and this is actually the first time we've ever heard of Gojo using one. It's something that you don't necessarily master, but you just kinda do it randomly, and sometimes you get in the zone and land multiple in the same battle. As for what Gege has planned for Sukuna going forward, I'm not really sure. I think the most fun option here is that Megumi gets involved again. Since Sukuna's at a weak point right now, Megumi may somehow be able to take back control while Sukuna's healing with reverse curse technique or something. We saw before the fight even happened that Sukuna sunk Megumi's soul as deep as possible so that he wouldn't fight back at all basically, but I'm sure Gege has something planned for Megumi. I mean, maybe Sukuna has to give back control in order to conserve cursed energy in order to heal up. If Megumi is able to regain control at any point, then maybe he's even able to help Gojo against Mahoraga or something. I mentioned in my last video how no user of the 10 Shadows has ever tamed Mahoraga, but Sukuna kinda makes sense as the perfect person to do so since he's the GOAT. But if Megumi takes control of his body while Sukuna is at some kind of weak point, maybe he will somehow be able to control the Mahoraga just for a moment at least to help out Gojo, because Gojo is kind of on the ropes right now. At the very end of the chapter we see that he got slashed by the Sword of Extermination, which is enveloped in positive energy. This is what you use in a reverse curse technique by multiplying negative energy by itself. I'm not sure if that's why it got through Limitless so easily, or if it's because of the adaptation that Mahoraga just did, because we did see a similar thing happen against Gojo vs Toji, where he used the inverted Spear of Heaven because its effect was a forced stoppage of a curse technique. We even saw something similar in Volume 0 against the Rope Guy because Gojo said his technique was being disturbed. So again, I'm not sure if the positive energy is what got through Limitless or if it was the adaptation, but I love that positive energy is being involved here because, like I said, that's what you use in a reverse curse technique, and Gojo struggled to use reverse curse technique at all until he lost to Toji. It was always kind of his weak point early in the story. However, as we've seen throughout his fight with Sukuna, he's gotten much better at using it and even use it to heal his burnt out curse technique. So now we see him get slashed by a weapon that uses positive energy specifically, which is kind of fitting and could maybe provide Gojo a chance to learn some kind of new technique. Positive energy is especially effective against curse spirits, and even Sukuna said he would have died if he wasn't in Yuji's body last time he fought Mahoraga, since he wasn't completely made of cursed energy. So this slice against Gojo definitely wasn't some kind of finishing blow since he is a human. But like we saw, the wheel did spin another 3 times in this chapter, meaning it's already adapted to Limitless. And I gotta say, I love the way that Gege kinda did this at the end here, where after Gojo punches Sukuna, the wheel then falls down and suddenly starts spinning to capture him within the shadows. I don't know if this is Mahoraga just acting on its own here because he's pissed at Gojo, or if Sukuna somehow meant to summon him there. Either way though, it's crazy that it can basically suck Gojo into the shadows like that so suddenly. I imagine Mahoraga will keep trying to do that since Gojo's probably going to need to use reverse curse technique to heal himself, if he's even able to at this point. Gege might be making it where both combatants are sort of incapable of fighting for a while, and like I said earlier, Megumi taking back control could kind of make sense here. Or maybe Kashimo, who has been itching to get a crack at Sukuna this entire time, finally steps in. Even at the end of chapter 231, Kashimo mentioned letting him forget about Megumi, so maybe this moment was where all of that kind of comes together at once. Not that I think Sukuna will actually die, of course, but maybe Kashimo shows up and Sukuna has no choice but to let Megumi take over because of whatever Kashimo's curse technique is, which is still a secret though. And since it's a one-time use, and that's like the only thing we know about it, and Kashimo specifically wants to save it for Sukuna, I have a feeling it's going to be like a target-based technique or something like that. So Sukuna retreating into Megumi's body may be the only way to save himself until he can recharge until later. And I also want to touch on this conversation they had earlier in the chapter about whether it's experience or time that helps Mahoraga adapt to certain attacks. I feel like Gege is purposefully keeping this ambiguous because we saw it spin right on page 1 where Gojo didn't attack first, but then later in the chapter it spun right after Sukuna got hit with blue. So that's probably what prompted Yuji's question in the first place. My guess is that Gege explained it this way just so that he can have the luxury of spinning it as fast or slow as he wants during the the chapter. But maybe there will be some kind of reason to this in the future. But we also see Gojo use some new application of techniques that we've already seen before. Like he has multiple blue attacks swirling around, which is basically what we saw from his fight with Toji, where he leveled the entire dojo thing they were fighting near by sending it around in a circle. But now he has multiple smaller iterations of it chasing Sukuna while he's also fighting him hand to hand. And I also loved how as soon as they got in the building, Gojo recognized that he has the advantage because of what we saw later in the chapter with the way that the building was constructed, where Gojo had Red take a giant loop around the building to hit Sukuna from behind. I think this might be a continuation of the idea that I mentioned from last chapter, where Gojo is learning new techniques as he goes during this fight. We just saw that shadow clone technique kind of randomly last chapter, which is probably stolen from the Baghead guy somehow, although it didn't work the exact same way as he used it. But now we're seeing him develop new variations of blue with these small spheres. I wonder if this is him kind of preparing a counter for Mahoraga, who is almost his main opponent at this point since it can counter infinity and Sukuna keeps getting bailed out by him. And like I said in the beginning, I don't want to call Sukuna a fraud because he's not at full power yet, but Gege seems to have made it pretty clear that Gojo's a tier above in their current states. So I think Mahoraga taking a more permanent role in the fight is exactly what we're about to see, which does make a lot of sense because this fight is really a redo of the Zenin and Gojo clan rivalry. So now Gege might be able to dive into that a little bit more now and dive deeper into the 10 shadows and where they came from and how Mahoraga even became one if nobody's been able to control it. And maybe we can even get a flashback to the Gojo and Zenin battle that Megumi heard about from Gojo towards the beginning of the story. I know Gege wants to finish Jujutsu Kaisen in the next couple years or whatever it is, so there may not be tons of time for lore and flashbacks, especially during the most hyped fight of the series, but a man can dream. Plus, Sukuna might legitimately need time to heal up and figure out what to do next after those attacks. That black flash looked pretty lethal because his eyes are all whited out now, and I mean getting hit with red in the back unexpectedly, followed by a punch from Gojo that's 2.5 times as strong as normal, which the other sorcerers were just talking about how bad his normal punches hurt already, that's definitely gonna leave an impact. But it won't kill him, of course. The man was able to rip out Yuji's heart while he was in his body and just kind of vibe out while negotiating. Now this is a bit different, of course, since it involves Gojo and everything, but still, there's a lot left for both of these guys in the story, even if the fight's gonna be stalled out for a little bit with Mahoraga in full swing. And this leads me to another question that maybe you guys can help me out with in the comments. But when it says that Mahoraga is adapting to infinity or whatever, is that going to include every iteration of the curse technique? Because from my understanding, Mahoraga can basically see through the curse technique after the wheel spins enough times, but Gojo uses so many different variations of it, like red, blue, and purple obviously, but he hasn't even used purple since the adaptation started, and the small spheres this chapter that we saw were kind of a new twist on the ability. So I'm curious if Mahoraga can really adapt to all of that at once, even if he hasn't seen all of it. Because when Sukuna fought it, he noted how it may even be able to dodge slash attacks in general afterward, since it adapted to cleave and dismantle. But Gojo's isn't that straightforward, obviously. But alright, that's enough for this video, so please make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, and until next time, later.